You're listening to Greater Good Radio. Today's guest is Dr. Jim Scott, president of Punahou School, a trustee of the Barstow Foundation and the College Board, and as a member and director of several organizations, including Hawaii Association of Independent Schools, American Savings Bank, and several others.
How were you when you were growing up? Were you pretty straight and narrow, or were you somewhat rascal?
I think I'd be described as pretty straight and narrow. I mean, I was the firstborn. Wanted to please my parents. Was always a pretty good student, but didn't really focus on school and getting as high grades as I could until like 9th grade, after my talk with Dave Eldridge. But I think mainly I grew up wanting to please my mom and dad. I was a dutiful first son.
What did your dad do for work?
He and my mother both worked at Hawaiian Telephone. So they were lifelong career employees there. And that's what paid the bills for my brother and me at Punahou and college.
When you hear president of a school, especially Punahou being such a large school, it seems that you would be so busy, but yet you spend a lot of time in the community still. You mentioned your mentors who were servant leaders. Can you tell us at what point in your career you decided it was time for you to start getting involved in these boards and becoming members of organizations?
Well, when I was in my last school, it was in Portland, and the school itself had some enrollment pressures, so it was vital that as the head of the school I got out more into the community. Private schools in Oregon are not as well known as private schools in Hawaii, and so I joined boards, but also did a lot more public speaking around town just to make the school more visible through my own visibility. I think, one of the reasons I came to Punahou was because, given its size and scale and longevity and reputation, it's got a seat at the table in a lot of conversations. And so I had to be careful about how I chose my community work. But that I was representing Punahou, but also they knew that my experience and my insight and perspective as head of Punahou School might be of value, to the organization as well. So, there's always a tension between the inside and the outside. I mean, every time I drive off the campus, I have to ask myself, now, how is this helping the school? Because it just can't be helping me. So I think that, but my own personal view of community service, and this is the segue back to school, is that I think that one of the reasons that I came back to Punahou as the head, after being gone for 24 years, is that the whole notion of public service and community service resonated with the faculty, with the kids, and with the trustees. And what I've had a chance to do in the last few years is just to begin to consolidate those efforts. So the school had a requirement for seniors to do community service, but there was a lot of enthusiasm about the entire school wanting to do more and more. So when we founded the Luke Center for Public Service, it was really to just coordinate the myriad of service opportunities throughout the school. But it also is a chance to work with the faculty in teaching service learning, teaching how you teach that. And then third, I think the Luke Center, because of Punahou's prominence and reputation and history, and because of the success of its own graduates, I think the Luke Center has also been a place where we were able to convene conversations about the improvement of Hawaii. So, when Barack Obama came to talk to the students almost exactly four years ago, he was just elected senator. I had asked him for his 25th high school reunion to come back, and I was going to lead a panel on public service. After the piece, well, I'm a little busy running for the Senate. But I tell you what, after the election, I come back with my family in Hawaii. I'll come over and talk to the school. Well, the night he got elected senator, I got a call from his chief of staff saying the senator made a promise. So he came to see us exactly 4 years ago, next Friday, spent some time in the chapel talking to seniors. And he talked about the role of great teaching in his life. He challenged the students to a life of public service. And one of the things he said is, to whom much is given, much is expected. The kids thought that was my term. I said, no, that's a paraphrase from the book of Luke. But it was nice for them to hear that from him. And it's, I think, nice to see him taking that principle into the White House in a few months. And the last thing he did was, he thanked me 25 years later for his financial aid. And he told the story to the kids that he grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment down the street with his grandparents. His grandmother's income was not enough to pay the tuition for him and his sister. So if it wasn't for Punahou's commitment to financial aid, he would never have been able to stay there for eight years. So in many ways, he's the walking advertisement for why schools like Punahou need to reach out, and to include people who might not otherwise be there.
I'm wondering, the mainstream media kind of discounts Barack's Hawaii experience. They say, he got his experience in Chicago or so on, whereas when I look at him, I disagree personally, because I think that Hawaii people, and being born and raised here, you gain a special ability to bring people together and to deal with other people. What, in your opinion, what do you think from Hawaii or from his Punahou experience or so on has contributed to President Obama's success?
Well, it's hard to tell specifically, so I can just speculate, but I think that any of us who grow up in Hawaii grow up as an ethnic minority. So there is no majority. And so there is something special and elegant and different about that. And so I think he, like all of us, he grew up with a multicultural perspective, multiracial. And so this notion of the blending of boundaries begins very early on. I think that, I was able to see him in August when he was here, just because I was invited to come watch him play a pickup basketball game with his classmates. And so when he gets out of the car and he goes up to the Punahou gym, and about 8 of his schoolmates from his basketball team are waiting for him, and a few he hadn't seen for years, it wasn't like they kissed his feet. They were saying, "Come on, you're late. Put on your shoes." So it's like it's good friends. He just never. It's like he never left. He's one of the guys, and so that connection with the boys is very local. And just watching the imagery of him and his kids with shave ice and body surfing and picnicking in Alameda Park. This guy's a local boy. And just even when he was home last, and you remember seeing the picture in the paper of him, taking a break from his grandmother's apartment where he's in jeans and slippers and a sweatshirt. There's a local kid that I think is a part of it. I think Michelle Obama's even said, to understand Barack, you need to understand Hawaii. And I think that's clarifying in many ways. And I believe that Hawaii and Punahou are not too far from his heart, but especially the islands. And so I hope we all benefit from that.
Thanks for joining us today on Greater Good Radio. For more information or a transcript of today's show, please visit us online at greatergoodradio.com. This is your host, Evan Leong and Carrie Leong, saying please join us next time for another episode of Greater Good Radio, Hawaii.